Meet one of this reporter's best friends, a newsreel camera. Cost about $3,000, worth every penny of it. With it, reports come alive, gain meaning, bring the world to your doorstep. We have had this one out visiting photo dealers of all kinds. We poked it into stores all across the country, from Boston to San Francisco, and a lot of places in between. We talked to dealers, and the dealers talked to us. We even hid the camera so we could see life as it really is. Yes, and we managed to get the camera into places where it wasn't supposed to be. Why? What is all this about? Very simple.
Timecode. Independent film. Originality. Fresh. 35mm. Video. Style. Urban, man. Crescent City. Feel me. Independent. New Orleans. Style. Video.
I'm Jason Affolder, director of After the Sea Turned to Ground. I'm from Indiana. I went to school in LA and then decided that it was too big. But going back to Indiana, couldn't deal with the farmland anymore, so I don't know. I had some drinking to do, so I came down here and just stuck around. It's a good place, you know. No big complaints. I shoot a lot of stuff on Super 8 just because I travel a lot, and I'll just capture it on Super 8 and then later on think of something to do with it, you know. It's really whatever format fits what I'm into at the moment. Sometimes it's a still photo, sometimes it's, you know, video. You know, like I've done documentaries, and obviously, you know, video is ideal for, you know, all the massive amounts of footage you can get from that. And you know, and with this project, I just had this 16mm camera that I came upon, and just figured I should use it for something. So I decided to just do something, you know, kind of a fable, something simple, just a couple characters, one single location. Knew a couple of guys named Brian who had almost the exact same name but were completely different characters. So took their personalities and kind of incorporated them into this project and, you know, threw it together. Like the hotel location is way out in the east, past, you go Chef Highway, beyond anything that's left in New Orleans, even though it's still Orleans Parish. And I think it's called the Wrigley's. It's just some bridges and, you know, vast water, and then all of a sudden it's just, you know, this abandoned motels out there. And I shot up at the lake, you know, for a couple of scenes, Lincoln Beach, which is like the abandoned, like segregated beach that they're actually fixing up, but it's really cool. It's just, you can see all these crazy old, like, promenade that they had and all this stuff that's just in total disrepair, but shot there. And for the time-lapse stuff at the beginning, like the Twin Stacks down by the convention center and over in Chalmette. So yeah, all those locations are within 20 to 40 minutes of here, you know. I'll go someplace and see something happen that's really interesting, or see a place that's interesting, or a person, and then sometimes I capture that actual event on Super 8 or DV or whatever, and then it becomes a project. Or sometimes I don't have a chance to capture it, but later on, you know, I'll write it into a story, which will ultimately become a movie or something. So it's based on the things that I experienced personally, really. If you're gonna make a movie and you really are not sure, I mean, the cameras can do it for you, which, you know, that's not the best way to go, but if you have a good idea and you really are that unsure technically, just get a camera, and just like a Super 8 camera that has automatic exposure. You can make your movie, and it won't be as beautiful as if you can control everything, but if it's a great movie, then it's gonna work one way or the other. So don't be afraid to make a movie just because you don't think you know how to make a movie, because you can never please everybody, and if you do, then your movie probably sucks.
Timecode NOLA. The New Orleans Independent Film Program.
Order from disorder. I try so hard. I start with a bag full of potential. What is the fundamental structure of the universe? From the atom to the galaxy. How can I do my work when I can't even control my appetite? My left hand, my right brain. It must be stopped if I'm going to bring order. this?
You know who this is. The universe is like milk. Eventually, it will turn to cheese. And when this universe ends, we will start again. Disorder is inevitable.
Ah!
Hi, I'm Kimberly Gibbs, the director of the portrait. I think the story as a whole, I think it's everything that I wanted to be in there. And my goal for this film was, especially since it was my first film I've ever made, was to make it as simple as possible. The storyline as simple as possible, one woman, you know, one main location, so I could focus on all the different technical aspects. So I could focus on the different camera angles, I could focus on the sound. And so I think by doing that, I was able to get what I was expecting. But the only thing that that I'm not crazy about is the sound, and I wish I could have. The final scene, which was the scene where she throws paint all over the wall, that was extremely difficult because we had to find a location where they wouldn't mind us destroying it practically, like throwing paint everywhere and on the floors, on the ceilings, but mainly the one wall. And we went to a couple different places, and we thought about maybe renting an apartment or something like that, and that's just, that wouldn't have worked. So I talked to I knew my mother, she was thinking about redoing our living room. And I was talking to her, and I was like, well, Mom, what do you think if we shot here? You know? And at first she was like, what? But we didn't think it would be as big of a deal as it was. And so she allowed us, and she's like, sure, that's fine, that's great. Well, we did the scene, and her whole living room was destroyed. It was. And then we wanted to go ahead and start repainting the wall. Well, when we started repainting the wall, the paint started smearing everywhere. And we just couldn't repaint over it. It was horrible. And so then we went to Home Depot, and we were talking to the guy. We were like, I ruined my mother's living room, what can I do, you know? And he gave me a big thing of joint compound. He's like, you're just gonna have to float the whole new wall, a whole new wall. And so I floated the wall, I have never done anything like this before in my life. And I floated the wall, and then I had to sand the wall. And that was ridiculous because there was dust everywhere. Like in the back room, there was dust from sanding, and then I had to retexture it, and it looks okay for a person that's never done it. Actually, it looks pretty bad if you get close to it.
Independent originality.
25mm video.
You ain't never shit. Urban man.
Timecode NOLA.com.
Independent. New Orleans.
Timecode NOLA.com.
Log on to www.timecodennola.com, you heard me?
Inform
the new timecode NOLA.com.
Your mind has two functions, the memory and the imagination. The memory replays the past. Your imagination preplays the future. Joseph saw a picture of his future, and it gave him the tenacity to endure the prison. It's important to have a picture near your goal. Let go of yesterday by embracing the future. Pour your energy into it. It's too precious.
right, Ethan Anderson, Death of a Theater. Well, this is a movie theater where I grew up, and you know, spent most of my life there. Actually, all the big movies that everybody sees and talks about, the new classic movies, Star Wars, all those things I saw at this theater. And it was an local Algiers theater that you know, my brothers and my friends and all, we used to all go to together. Yeah, I was driving by, paying a bill, I guess just a couple of months ago, and you know, the wrecking ball was turning, and I said, you know, I need to go get the camera and document this. So I walked through there, and it's kind of sad, you know, and I think the piece kind of reflects that you know, it really is kind of the death of not only a theater, but really kind of a way of going to the movies. I miss there being 24 different theaters you can go to, each one of having their own personality. Village Aurora, yeah, the floors might have been sticky sometimes, and it may not have been the best view, but you know, it had personality. I think over a course of time, you're going to see a kind of a movement back to the way it once was. And I think that's going to be directly related to digital technology. I would love to see another dinner theater open up. I remember spending, you know, many a night at movie pictures and just having a blast with friends of mine, but you know, and that's gone too. You know, filming since I was 12 when my dad bought me a little Super 8 film camera, and cutting it up on my bedroom floor, and just thinking, man, I wish I could do this or I could do that. I could make this happen, make this special effect or this kind of cut. Well, now you can do all that. It's lessened the burden of the independent filmmaker to create something really good. It's really, the digital technology is directly influencing the way movies are going to be made. And it enhances creativity, and it allows the good ideas to rise to the top as opposed to who's got the most money. It's exciting, you know, it's just because I know that if the idea can occur to me, if I can get that spark or that idea of a really good story with really good characters that people identify with, then I can stand with the big boys. And New Orleans can be, you know, a film mecca. And there's no reason it shouldn't be. I've just recently begun to invest personal money into a lot of nice gear, and you know, I stood out on the street, and I turned the camera on and started shooting. And I'm like, okay, now I need a story, you know, and that's what it comes down to. That's the next step I want to make, is I want to become more of a storyteller. And so what I've been trying to do lately is really develop some ideas that I've had over the past couple of years and try to flesh them out a little bit. As of recently, it's really been the first few steps that I've made into this community. I've basically, I've existed in a bubble for the past 5-10 years in New Orleans as I've been doing this. Really not working as hard as I should to make some of these connections, but what I've realized just within the past 6-8 months is how big it really is, and how many people in this town really do enjoy making movies and really want to do that and have a passion for it. So, I mean, it's really exciting, you know, just talking to different people and how excited they get when they hear that that's something that I would like to try to do. But I got a feeling, just from what little that I've seen, that if we all pool our talents and get together and everybody can have access to everyone else's talents and understanding of how all this stuff works, I think it'd be pretty interesting. I think it could be pretty powerful.
Maybe it was the hornets. My grandfather kept a hornet's nest hanging in a corner of his house. I don't know how he'd gotten the hornets out, and now something had gotten into his kidneys. My grandfather grows smaller with each hour. He shrinks away from his pillows as he sleeps, and soon his arms, growing shorter and shorter, won't be able to reach anything, not the windows or his wallet, not even a door to lead by. He is white-haired and disappearing in hospital sheets, lovely, delicate limbs fading to white, while I'm thinking of a plan to bring him back.
A sip of water?
I'm just trying to get something to eat in a little while.
You want some Jell-O right now?
No, I haven't been eating much Jell-O lately.
Did you know Pastor Englehart, he came to see you again today?
How come he comes to see me again?
You're in the hospital right now because your kidneys are giving you trouble.
Yeah.
The trouble was this. My grandfather was 91 years old and was suddenly so taken by kidney failure that we brought him to the hospital. He was delirious and would not eat or drink and was becoming thinner and thinner. I stayed with him overnight at the hospital. Every night at 3 or 4 in the morning, he would rustle a bit and begin to talk. I realized that as he lay quietly in a hospital bed, his mind was busy with dreams. Years ago, he played this record over and over and over again in his back den, while my brother and I and all the other neighborhood children would dance to it and watch him show us all his jump roping tricks and how he could walk on his hands. Later, when we finally did lose him, my brother spoke at the funeral.
When I was 6, Pop built a 3-foot-high tightrope in the backyard. He drove us and other kids around the neighborhood in a 2-seater tandem bike, which to us may as well have been a rocket ship. On that same bike, he would demonstrate to the amazement of all that he could ride it backwards. Pop had a coin collection and built model airplanes which would fly on kerosene. He did headstands on tables in the kitchen. He threw us birthday parties in the backyard, put nickels on the train tracks to get flattened by passing trains, and would take the family out to eat to Dutch Square so Helen and I could see the monkeys at Cromer's.
At the funeral, I was still trying to figure out what we had lost my grandfather to. The pastors were certain he was in heaven, so I thought about what my mind could not imagine.
But Isaiah and St. Paul said it best of all when they said, "No eye has seen, no ear hath heard, nor has it entered into the mind of man what God has prepared for them that love him."
But before the funeral, before we lost him, I was working on a plan to bring him back. In his delirium, my grandfather imagined that he was still working on the train, delivering mail in the southern states, eating in restaurants downtown, or heading north on a car trip.
Where are we going?
I don't know. Just roaming around up in Asheville.
Yeah? In the mountains?
I got the real train serves coffee.
He may be able to dig mouse holes and tiny passages, so that by scratching and climbing, he may be able to get back to everything, the floor and his glasses, his stacks of handkerchiefs neatly folded in his room. Meanwhile, he's here, fading away, while I dream of the nurses arriving by his bedside in flocks, lifting us up together to leave in billowing clouds of sheets.
Hey, Pop? Do you know where you are right now? Tell me where you are.
Anywhere.
Anywhere?
Filmmaker, huh? You sit around with your partners talking about you gonna shoot this or I'm gonna shoot that. You ain't shooting shit. You gotta finish the sound bites and I need ADR and my soundtrack music ain't right. You ain't making movies if nobody ain't seeing them. Get the done, you bullshitting. We need your film. Send them in today. Timecode NOLA, you heard me?
Timecode NOLA is supported in part by the Louisiana Division of the Arts Council of New Orleans, Cox Communications, and by people like you.